You're listening to Madmen Sports, sponsored by Black Button Distilling. Well, guys, it's Giants week. You guys excited? Week 2, the Bills 1-0, going back to MetLife Stadium. So what's up, guys? You excited?
Hell yes.
I'm ready for week 2. There's not one thing that they did in week 1 that didn't get me ready for this week. It's pretty much a home game at this point. We have more home games. We have more games played at this venue than the home team. So we're ready. We're rocked and loaded. It's a rare scenario, but it's time for the Giants to welcome themselves home to the place where the Bills play.
Yeah, this is the first time we've played at the same NFL stadium that's not our own since the NFL merger. It's never really happened before. So it's really exciting. Dave, what about you, man? You excited?
Yeah, I hope the Bills don't overlook this game just like I'm kind of overlooking it. I think it's going to be an easy win for us. I think the Giants are at a rough spot. They have a lot of injuries. They don't have much offensive firepower. I just want the Bills to go in there and raffle stop them.
Yeah, and I think that'll happen because, Eli Manning, as we know, hasn't been himself over the past couple years. He has weapons, but...
What's that stat you told me before this?
I think he's won about 8 games since 2017, and that is the lowest amount of games won by a quarterback. So he's got some issues there, and of course he's lost a lot of receivers. He's lost Odell Beckham Jr., lost Sterling Shepard is in concussion protocol as well. So
Golden Tate's suspended for the next 3 games still. He's got to serve his suspension. Giants are facing a little bit of adversity here. They drafted a young quarterback in the 6th pick this year. There's a lot going on. Last year, they drafted with the 2nd overall pick, a running back who's been a stud. You guys play fantasy, you know what he brings to the table.
They are not giving him much to work with, though.
Yeah, he's a boy, like with no one on his back right now. He's a man amongst boys on this team.
The Cowboys beat him up pretty good last Sunday, so
yeah,
hopefully we can take the remains of that.
I'm surprised they didn't give him the ball more last week because he had a low amount of carries for a high amount of yards. It's kind of like, you look at Singletary stats, definitely not the same player, but kind of the same production value in terms of why didn't they give him the ball more. But, the Jets won, or the Jets lost, the Bills won, Giants lost, so you got to wonder why they didn't put the ball in the hands of their playmaker. That win-loss stat is really what defines decision-making and who questions it at the end of the day.
How does that team not have a single wide receiver? They might have the worst receiving core in the entire league.
And they did have wide receivers up until this year. You have the aforementioned players that are either injured or suspended. You lose your, number 1 wide receiver in Odell Beckham Jr. So I don't think that
they just keep placing blame on Eli, but the one weapon he had, Odell, they just keep getting rid of. And don't get me wrong, I think Eli is just awful. I think he's past his. He did what he had to do for you. He won Super Bowls. He has nothing to throw to.
You kind of have.
You can't throw a rookie in there because it's not fair. So
you're gonna have to take Eli out to pasture soon.
It would be tough to be a Giants fan right now.
Yeah, no, I agree. But we're looking forward to this week. The Bills had some injuries they're working through. Taron Johnson hasn't practiced today. He has that hamstring injury. Lorenzo Alexander, John Brown, Tyan Secchi, and Andre Roberts, they were all out.
Let Taron Johnson take a rest this week, please. We need him for the next couple games coming up. Patriots are just stocking up. Let Taron Johnson rest. We're going to need him.
Yeah, and Taron Johnson, he battled with that shoulder injury all last year as well. So, I think it's a little too early to say that he's injury prone, but you do have to kind of realize that, he's susceptible to injuries here. This is his 2nd injury in 2 years. So, Zach, what do you think about the Taron Johnson situation? Do you think he's a little fragile, or do you think it's just some bad luck?
He's a guy that really throws his body around, especially in that nickel slot corners position that he plays. When he's out there, he's flying around. He's a sideline-to-sideline corner. He throws his body around. He had a tough matchup last week with Jamison Crowder. He got out. Definitely, Sarian Neal definitely stepped up in his position.
Big fan of him.
You definitely don't want him covering Saquon Barkley too much in the open field in a one-on-one this week. Taron Johnson is a valuable asset to this team, but part of ability is availability, and that's starting to become a problem for Taron Johnson. It's only his 2nd year. We'll have to see what comes of it. Who knows? I'm not going to call him injury prone, but a guy got to stay healthy in order to, really play out your full potential and being available.
I don't think it's a big deal with him being injured. When he plays, he's very productive. Let him sit out this week. Maybe next week against Cincinnati, we'll see where we're at with other things. But let's not rush him back. I don't know how serious it is, if it's serious at all. Maybe the Bills are thinking let's rest him too. But we're going to need him down the stretch for passing.
Yeah, and thankfully we're pretty deep at cornerback, so I mean it's not like we're going to lose too much production as well. And the one thing I do want to say in terms of Bills injuries, the last thing I want to say is Tyler Kroft, limited participant. So when do you think he comes back? I mean, I don't think he's coming back this week, but do you think next week or the week after we'll see him in action?
His worst enemy right now is Tommy Sweeney because he's looking fantastic out there right now. He had a good preseason. He had a good game last game. I want to see him have another strong game. So if anything comes out of this, it's that the young tight ends are shining right now.
If you don't think Tyler Kroft has this next game, the Bengals, circled on his calendar for when he wants to come back and show out, you're wrong, because that has probably been his goal since the day he got hurt. He's been looking forward to playing against the Bengals. I don't think he plays this week, but I definitely think he starts practicing a little bit more, and he's ready to pop come Tuesday next week, and he's ready to roll. And I'm really looking forward to him on the field because, you know why? The Bills are looking forward to having him on the field. They brought him in. They gave him a lot of money. They want to see him in the role that they really etched out for him in this offense. Now, I think there's a lot to be said about Tommy Sweeney, Dawson Knox. Late Smith had a great game last week. There's tight ends on this team to step up. I'm not so concerned if Tyler Kroft does not play, but it's more of an excitement thing. I'm excited for him. I'm excited to see him. I want to see him in the role that the Bills wanted to have him in. They signed him and brought him in for. I don't think it's win or loss whether or not he plays this week. I don't think it's win or loss whether he plays next week. I think it just adds on to the potential of this team.
I'm excited to see if there's anything there with him. When we signed him, we were like, we got a tight end. Let's move on. I want to see that he has something in him. Right now, there's a little bit of I'm not getting too excited about it because you know how I hate doing that. There's a little bit of promise with young rookie tight ends we have. I want to see if we have anything with Kroft. I just get a little more excited by seeing it. Next week, that stadium's going to be crazy. It's going to be shaking. It's going to be maybe record-breaking. I don't know. It's going to be crazy. If we go in there 2-0, the stadium's going to be just crazy. And they're going to be fired up for the week after that, which is the team we don't like talking about. So, yeah, I would like to see Kroft out there, and I would like to see the offense light stuff up to get the fans even more fired up.
Yeah, and definitely, I agree with that. I don't think you invest that kind of money in Tyler Kroft if you don't plan on having him be a vocal point of your offense. In terms of the depth chart with tight ends, I definitely think Tommy Sweeney has outshined every single tight end. Dawson Knox has kind of been a little unperforming, a little underwhelming.
He pretty much missed training camp, but yeah.
Yeah, and that certainly is a part of it. I mean, being the fourth-round pick, you can't expect too much there. But yeah, Tyler Kroft definitely needs to be available and definitely needs to succeed in this offense. All right, guys. Main key to the game. I want one. Zach, what is your vocal point, your main key?
My focus for this game for the Bills is probably, it's like cheating for me going first. Just contain Saquon Barkley to minimize his effectiveness. Now, last week they played against Le'Veon Bell, a guy who's, terrorized the league for the past, handful of years that he's been in. Obviously missed last year, whatever. But Barkley is a guy that comes in. He's the top. He's the number one guy in fantasy for everyone's draft this year. He's a guy that's just super effective. He killed it at Penn State, killed it here in the NFL. Didn't miss a beat. He's a guy that if the Giants have any success this year, it's because it goes through Saquon Barkley. You have to be able to contain, and that's something I really think that the Bills will pride themselves on. I don't think this is a game that the Bills overlook. I know Dave mentioned something. I don't think it's in McDermott's culture to overlook any opponent at all. It's always respect your opponent, never overlook him. He's a very business-like guy. So I don't think it's something that they overlook this week. I think even though their fifth wide receiver, I think they will look at him as a threat. Evan Ingram is an important facet to this offense. We all know Eli Manning has turnover problems. I think they're going to pressure him. They're going to suck in Barkley so they can really focus on him on a one-on-one, maybe a two-on-one scenario. And then I think the pass rush really eats this week. There's a lot going on.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
Dave,
to
you?
touch on what Zach said, I'm going to say this. I don't. Saquon Barkley doesn't scare me at all. I'm sorry, I know that's not popular, but you're going to put 6 or 7 guys in the box, and their one job is going to be to stop Barkley. And then you just have to cover man coverage the other guys, put Hyde or something on, or Neal on Evan Ingram. Evan Ingram doesn't really scare me either. My big thing this week is, and I know that they're probably not going to, but it's my big thing because they say it in the media, but teams still do overlook. I don't want the Bills to overlook the Giants. I think it's an easy win. I think the Bills think it's an easy win. They have nothing on film. There's nothing that's really scary on it. The Bills have a good defense. We know this. Barkley doesn't scare me, and it shouldn't scare the Bills either. Also, he's only played in 16 games. Everyone's trying to crown him and put him in the pro. He's just not. He's not. He doesn't scare me. I'm not scared.
Well,
And
while I respectfully
disagree.
disagree,
I knew this was coming.
Saquon Barkley is easily the number one
He'd
running
be
back
more
in
of a
the league.
threat with the receivers on the outside. There isn't anything on that
No,
offense.
the thing about Saquon Barkley is he's a one-man show. There's no setting up with him. There's no setting up the passing game. He can tear a defense apart on his own. He barely needs anyone to block for him. I think that Saquon Barkley is the biggest threat to a Bills win. Bills going into the season 2-0. I'm honestly very afraid of Saquon Barkley. I mean, we have added a lot of depth to the Bills' offense, so kind of in the second quarter, if we've been on the field for a long time, I have a little more confidence because that was a big problem over the past couple years. We wouldn't have the ball on offense, or we would go 3 and out, and we would have those long stretches where the Bills' defense would be gassed. I don't think that that's going to be a problem anymore, but you need to be aware of Saquon Barkley. Zach, do you want to reiterate my point there and how Saquon Barkley is kind of a premier back, maybe the number one in the league?
Yeah. Yes.
Perfect. So sorry, Dave.
I'm not saying he's not good. Again, being taken out of context, I'm saying we have the tools to stop him. I'm not scared. I have all the confidence in the world that we will stop him.
I'll be honest, I don't think any defense does. I think he's just unstoppable.
If there's a defense that can slow down Saquon Barkley, it's the Bills. We don't need to sugarcoat them. We don't need to put this guy in a pedestal higher than he might already be viewed as. Saquon Barkley is only one player. He's in his second year. He's a running back in a league where running backs don't matter. While he is a very vicious weapon in any offense that he would ever be in his career, I don't think it's anything that the Bills need to stay up at night thinking about. Leslie Frazier is sleeping very well this week, knowing he's playing against Eli Manning. He might even see some Daniel Jones. They might beat him so bad. I think the Bills walk away from this game with a lot of excitement about the offense. I know we're going to talk about the defense. We talked about it and how they're going to slow down this offense. But I really think that the Bills' offense is the headline leaving this game. We're going to sit here on Sunday night talking about how they put up 5-6 touchdowns, and that's going to be something that's going to be... I mean, Maestro Shine wants to call us out about not being excited. If they put up 40 points plus on Sunday, we're going to be through the roof, Maestro. Don't you worry, buddy. We'll be up in arms. That is something that will get us excited. Now, a comeback win, 17-16, that's a great character game. That's not anything that we wouldn't expect.
But a lot to fix.
Yeah, exactly. That didn't come without a lot of criticism. And that's just because it's week 1, cobwebs, whatever. We weren't too hard. I don't want to call it too hard. But if you're putting up 6, 5, maybe even 7 touchdowns against the New York Giants this week, I think that's something that you can really hang your hat on. You can go into the Bengals home opener, and then you can really start busting down the doors, breaking tables, and ripping off vans.
Yeah, don't forget,
Get arrested, all that stuff.
the first couple games, as everyone knows, it's on the easier side. So we definitely want to gain that momentum going into the tougher stretch.
Momentum isn't real. Cruz wants me to tell you that, guys.
All right. We want to gain confidence. That's probably a better term. Sorry, Cruz. But yeah, I mean, that's the most important thing. We want to stack up those wins. We want to kind of get the offense gelling. We just want to be a complete package moving forward into the thick part of the season. Our next segment, Madmen by the Numbers. You guys know it. I don't have to explain it. It's sponsored by Prima Pizza. It's on Chippewa. It's downtown, obviously. Lunch specials.
White pizza.
White pizza. This is all about keywords. Today is all about keywords. My first question, my first thing that I shall propose. Did you guys see that large bet placed on the Bills to win the Super Bowl? I think they're like, what, 500 to 1, 250 to 1? Some guy put...
The Bills are 101 to win the Super Bowl at the moment, and a gentleman or female put $4,000 on them at 100 to 1 to win $400,000, which is a very handsome payout for a team that's 1-0. I think it's probably the best odds at this point because you get a team that, maybe if a bettor is looking forward, you might see a team going 3-0, 3-1, maybe 4-1, headed into the bye week, and they play the Miami Dolphins twice. So if you're going to look at things, and you got 101 odds at something, and you're going to throw your $4,000 away, why not throw it on a $100 to 1 bet or 100 to 1 bet?
Yeah. So my question here: what are you betting? What is a safe number? Are you going $4,000? Are you confident, or are you just throwing $10 down? How confident are you with those odds that the Bills are going to win the Super Bowl?
Can I go first?
Yeah, of course.
First off, I hope that guy does not have kids. I hope he doesn't have to pay for college anytime soon.
Anyone that's putting $4,000 on a bet is pretty comfortable at this point in their life. Let's just be honest. Some guys been scraping by like, oh man, putting the savings on the Bills at 100 to 1 because even the most optimistic Bills fan would probably not do such a thing.
That's a nice payout, though.
Absolutely.
Could you imagine? I mean, national media is saying we're going 6-10, we're going 4-12. Could you imagine? Just say, fuck it. I'm going to put $4,000 on the Bills winning the Super Bowl. Miraculously, that happens. Dude's $400,000 richer. I could never imagine.
Yeah, after taxes, it'll probably come out to like $280,000, which I'll take it.
How much am I putting down?
Yeah, fuck it. How much are you putting down?
$50. I'm also a cheap ass.
$50. Listen, man, $50 bet, 100 to 1. It's still a fucking decent payout. At any rate, as a Bills fan, I
doesn't
think
affect
you have
Christmas.
to make a bet.
Christmas happens either way.
All right, and we talked about it as well. Saquon Barkley, probably the Bills' only threat on Sunday. Does he gash us? 150 yards. Does he get 150 yards
Total
or
yards?
rushing yards?
Rushing?
No, I don't think anyone gets 150 yards against this defense all year.
You could do total.
Fine. Total, I'll say 220.
I think
no.
I think it's 10% chance he gets that.
You guys
This
really...
guy has 220 yards against the number one defense in the league. Not happening.
He's 90% of that offense. So if the Bills aren't game planning and ready for that,
I'm not even
we have
sure
more
if
concerns.
Barry Sanders could do 220 in this against this defense.
So, Zach, I've known you to kind of be the more cautiously optimistic about the Bills.
Yeah.
And honestly, this is a great sign coming from you saying how stoutly the Bills' defense is. So, what makes you think that the Bills are the number one defense? Like, what gives you that hope?
Well, the numbers don't lie. They are statistically the number one defense through 1 week, but I don't think the Jets were a slouch either. I think teams have played worse teams and walked away with worse defensive stats. So I think that the Bills have a very stout defense going in, even back to last year. I know what kind of talent they have on the team. I don't think you understand how hard it is to get 220 yards all-purpose for just one player in the league anymore.
Interesting.
Since McDermott's been here, the Bills have had one of the hardest defenses to pass on. We are hard to throw on, and it's going to continue this week. It's going to continue the rest of the season. So when that happens, teams don't throw, and they just run, and so you Bills stack the box. And as you saw Le'Veon Bell last week, he'll have some success, but it's going to be hard to get that success.
And hey, I hope that happens. All right. So moving forward, let's talk about the Bills. I know I've been spending a lot of time on Saquon Barkley. Who is going to be your surprise breakout player? Someone who we don't automatically know will have a big game, like Josh Allen, Tre'Davious White, Jordan Poyer, Micah Hyde. Who's kind of going to be the low-key star of this game? Dave, we can start with you.
I'll answer this two different ways. I want the offensive line to keep Josh Allen untouched, not let a single sack in. That's what I want. I want Josh Allen to pretty much have an easy week.
They only allowed one last year, which is a very good stat.
Stay back. I want them to continue. This is the second time the offensive line's been together. So that stat doesn't really matter. So I want the Josh Allen to stay completely healthy, completely fresh, not touch the ground at all unless he scrambles. And not my breakout player, but my number one player that we'll talk about Sunday night, and you guys will pat me on the back and say, you're right, which is not going to be that hard because this guy, I want Tre'Davious White, he's already a shutdown corner. He already dominates the field he's on. I want him to start taking the number one corner position in the league. I want him to get out there and start taking picks. I want him out there. I want him to be a household name all over the world. I want him to just be the. I want to talk about him whether he's going to hold out next year because the Bills haven't signed him yet. I want him to be the highest paid corner in the league. I want him to go out there and just dominate. I want him to go out there and I want him to start taking picks. I just want him to take the number one spot in the league.
Perfect. Zach, what about you?
I think when we're sitting here Sunday night, we're hyped about the 6 touchdowns that the Bills get against this sorry-ass Jets defense. I think we're going to be looking at Cole Beasley, a guy who played this team twice a year last year and for his whole career. A guy that really knows how to pick apart, some of these sorry players that are on the other side of the ball. He wants to show the Cowboys, who still put up 35 points against them last week, that he wants to show to everyone that, he's not a guy that's just going to fall away and fade away like he did last week a little bit. The last time we really saw Cole Beasley even involved in the plays book as much as he was in the beginning of the game was when he had that dropped, batted up interception for a touchdown, which I saw today. He spent an hour catching low passes at practice. Cool. Yeah, so I think he's got a little bit of a chip on his shoulder today going into this week. He's going against a team that's very familiar to him. He's going into a stadium that's, how unweird is his whole career at this point. He's going to play in MetLife twice a year, going from playing, that's crazy. So I think you're going to see Cole Beasley step up with a chip on his shoulder. Josh Allen's going to want to get back on the same page with him. A little bit of an in-house competition between him and Brown of, who can do it a little bit better. And I think he wants to get back on the right page and even on the right, not saying that Bills fans are anti-Cole Beasley right now, but they maybe feel like they didn't see what they really wanted to see out of him out of that game one. No, it's true, though.
I know it's true, but it's ridiculous, isn't it?
Exactly. But so I think that he has a chip on his shoulder. I think he's going to want to prove himself a little bit more this week, and I think he's a guy that's going to want to be force-fed the ball, especially against a defense like this, to kind of get his confidence back up, get Josh Allen's confidence back up, and moving forward back into the AFC going into the next 4 weeks even. I think they're going to want Cole Beasley to be more integrated in the offense.
Yeah, and I can't disagree with you. And back to kind of your point to where Bills fans are kind of disappointed with Cole Beasley, as you said, I can definitely see that. The whole preseason you were like, all right, Cole Beasley, he's going to get his nut. He's going to have a fantastic year. And first game of the year, ball goes off his knee and for an interception. I get that. I definitely think he's going to have a bounce-back game. He's going to get back on track. But my breakout player is going to be Levi Wallace. Dave, you talked so much about Tre'Davious White needing to kind of take that number one cornerback role. You want him to be in the Pro Bowl. You want him to get that max contract. Perfect. But we need a very strong supporting cornerback by his side. I don't want Trey White not to be mentioned the whole game and Levi Wallace getting lit up, because what does that show you? Yeah, half your side of the defense is strong, the other is not.
Yeah.
So the most cliche saying is you're only as strong as your weakest link. So let's have that other side of the field locked up.
Yeah, so Trey White's assignment this week would be Sterling Shepard, and Sterling Shepard looks to be out. So that's huge for the Bills, and Levi Wallace will get tested this week, if you call it that. And I just think we have a very good setup with those two young corners that we were all bitter about Gilmore. Trey White could take Gilmore's spot, and he could surpass him in the league. If I just keep doing what he's doing. He's a very underrated player that's not talked about enough in this league.
Perfect. And listen, man, I definitely can't disagree with that. And going into this week, I don't want to use the word trap game, but this is the NFL. These are professional players. A big topic of this podcast was don't overlook your opponent. So, what is going to be the final score? What are your predictions? Zach?
I think the Bills kind of clobber them a little bit. I think it's clobbering time. I think after going 17-16 against a team that they really wanted to, get on quick because they're passing constantly. They wanted to really air raid that offense out. I think that they would get back on it. don't think that they waver from that at all this week. I think they go right back to pass heavy from the get-go, and I think it works a little bit better this week because it's not week 1. This is week 2. They're peppered, they're seasoned, they're ready to roll. Throw them on the grill, get this offense fired up. I go 63-10. Garbage time 10.
Jeez. So you're saying
Zach just so disrespect to the Giants.
fuck Baltimore Ravens and Dolphins.
And you want to know what? This is kind of my point here. Last night I was thinking about this podcast, and I wanted to throw in as many little Giants references as possible because that's how little I think of these Giants. I think that this team is trash, and I don't think it's a surprise to anyone. I think Pat Shurmur got a bad hand by having this quarterback age out while bringing in a new guy. I don't think this team's ready for this year, and they might not be ready for next year. I don't think Daniel Jones is anything to, he's not set or stone. Like you don't know what Daniel Jones is until at least next year. So this team isn't ready for this season. The Bills are ready for this season. I think they clobber them. I think Brian Daboll definitely wants to get on the points this week because they only got 17 last week. I think that's a little bit of a chip on his shoulder because I really do think that he wanted to hammer up the points. And you know what? He owes the defense points this week because last week the defense kept him in that game. So I think this week they get on him early, they hammer him, they clobber him.
Do you guys
annexation of Puerto Rico, baby.
Do you guys think we see Daniel Jones this week?
I
think the fans are going to demand it.
I think you see him in the second half because I think the Bills scored 28 points in the first half.
Jesus.
And I don't think they let up. I think they hammer it on in the third quarter too. I think, you know what? Screw Daniel Jones. I think we see Matt Barkley in the fourth quarter of this game.
Yeah, that leads to my point. I think the Bills win this game 48-10. I think the Giants get a garbage touchdown late in the fourth. My prediction, actually, the big one, is the Bills sit all of their starters in the fourth. I think that they sit, they relax, defense, offense, they all sit back. They enjoy the Barkley show, Matt Barkley, that is, and they enjoy maybe Yeldon getting some rushes and the defense, maybe Daryl Johnson, your boy, and can get some sack. I think the Bills are going to earn the starters to sit down in the fourth. I think the Bills have a commanding lead at halftime, something like 28-3. I think the Bills come out with firepower, and they start watching film in the fourth quarter of the Bengals.
Yeah, like I said, I don't think that listeners should overlook the fact that Brian Daboll definitely feels like he owes this defense points for keeping him in the game last week. This team could be 0-1 with a very disappointing offensive showing, but the defense allowed them to stay in the game, gave them a reason to fight, gave them something to keep playing for, even into the fourth quarter, even in halfway through the fourth quarter. This guy owes his defense points, and I think they get it in bunches against this sorry defense. Now, I don't know anything about Dak Prescott other than what I see. I don't study him like I study the Bills. I don't go into his film breakdown like I do to the Bills. But he looked fantastic against this defense, and I only have ever heard bad things about Dak Prescott. So if I think that Josh Allen's better than Dak Prescott, I think that they score way more than 35 points this week.
Okay, so off topic, I have a dilemma. I have Dak Prescott, and I have Matt Ryan on my fantasy. Who am I starting?
Who's playing who?
Doesn't matter. You have to pick one. Player.
I don't care. What's your score prediction for the game?
I think we're going to win 35-10.
A little low, but I mean...
Totals are going down as we go on this.
I went 63. I went heavy
63
high.
is heavy high.
I think by the end of the game, I think Barkley has more yards
Jake, play Prescott.
The Giants Barkley.
Really? All right.
I'm going with Matt Barkley. Better game than Saquon Barkley.
Holy
Barkley
shit.
war is over.
Absolutely.
Name of the episode.
Barkley versus Barkley. Face off. Thank you for listening to this week's pregame to the Giants podcast. Let's hammer them this week. Let's put up points in bunches. You know what? Start your Bills in fantasy. That's a guarantee from Zach right there.
Oh, shit.
Start your Bills in fantasy because I think they layer it on. I think it's like a 5-layer cake. I think that everyone gets a touchdown. I think we get a Lee Smith receiving touchdown this week. That's my outlandish stat this week. A Lee Smith receiving touchdown.
My dad?
Listen to us on Spotify, iTunes, anywhere you listen to podcasts. Like and subscribe on
Leave
YouTube.
comments for us.
Pick a bottle up from Backbutton Distilling.
Yeah, leave comments on YouTube. Check us out on Sunday night, guys. Huge hit last Sunday. I hope we bring the same kind of fire this Sunday. Listen long, listen hard.
Listen proud.
Take care, guys.
Peace.